With about 5 weeks until pitchers and catchers report to Scottsdale, these are the three biggest problems facing the San Francisco Giants right now. Welcome into another edition of the Crowley Show, talking all things Giants baseball. And today, I look at the issues that the president of baseball operations, Farhan Zaidi, and everyone else in the Giants front office must address before the start of the regular season. And as I tape this episode, knowing full well that the Giants could start to address these issues in the coming hours, in the coming weeks, in the coming months. But again, these issues have existed since the outset of the offseason. It's January 8th, and the Giants haven't made much progress. So let's get right down to the number one problem I think the Giants face headed into 2024, and that is the fact that right now, they don't have a competent starting rotation. You've got Logan Webb, who is, in my opinion, an unquestioned ace at the top of the rotation. Finished 11th in Cy Young voting in 2022, second in Cy Young voting in 2023, led the National League in innings this year. Logan Webb is a bona fide number one. I have no problem making him the face of the rotation, the face of the team. The question for the Giants, who follows Logan Webb right now? Because Alex Cobb just underwent hip surgery at the age of 35. The soonest he will be back is the month of May. And this is a hip surgery that, it's hard to know what he will look like coming back from this. Cobb, oft injured throughout his career, was on the record telling reporters how much he hated surgery in the middle of last season, how he felt finally healthy. And then, of course, the hip issue plagues him toward the end of the season. The Giants ultimately come to an agreement with Cobb where he ends up undergoing the hip surgery. They still pick up his option. And so, nevertheless, he figures into their plans, but he doesn't figure into their immediate plans come opening day. Then recently, the Giants make the trade, sending Anthony DeSclafani and Mitch Haniger up to Seattle and getting Robbie Ray in return. And while Ray certainly a talented Major League pitcher, he won the 2021 American League Cy Young Award. Robbie Ray is coming off Tommy John surgery. The soonest he will be back is July, and that is an optimistic outlook, assuming that there are no complications in his return from Tommy John surgery. So where do the Giants go from there? Right now, the number two pitcher in the Giants rotation, if they're to open the season and you're penciling out how this thing looks right now, it's Logan Webb, and then it's Ross Stripling. Maybe Kyle Harrison is the number two right now, but I think that the Giants would probably go with the veteran Ross Stripling, who couldn't hold down a rotation spot last season for this team. Anthony DeSclafani may have been in those plans, but again, he was probably going to be passed on the depth chart by Harrison, by Keaton Winn, by Tristan Beck, and all of these young pitchers now come into spring training or are appearing to be headed into spring training in about 5 weeks with an opportunity to win jobs in the Giants rotation. And that's great. If you're someone who's really looking forward to a young core emerging for the San Francisco Giants in 2024, if you want to see the kids play, fantastic. I'm of the belief that Harrison, Winn, Beck, all of these guys have impressive potential at the major league level and could be solid major league starting pitchers. And in Harrison's case, potentially an all-star Cy Young caliber pitcher. However, the Giants haven't built these pitchers up to take down 150 to 175 innings next season. The Giants are one Logan Webb IL stint away from being in a major, major hole. And we're talking about this rotation in January. You go into spring training, all sorts of things happen where, one guy goes down, another guy goes down. You're talking about using your depth options at the outset of the season. The Giants are already looking at using their depth options because Alex Cobb isn't healthy and won't be at the outset of the season. Robbie Ray won't be ready during the first half of the year. And so it's a Giants rotation that right now is just completely puzzling to me because the Giants have talked about wanting to win, wanting to contend in the National League. And it's very clear, regardless of whether they look to sign at the top end of the market and Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Shota Imanaga, or go with, reliable starting pitchers who have higher ERAs at the bottom end of the market, it just doesn't seem like they're built up to take down the amount of innings that they need to take down in 2024. So it's Logan Webb, it's Ross Stripling, and then it's a bunch of kids. And we're talking about Mason Black potentially factoring in to a job, come the beginning of the regular season. Kaiwei Tang, who spent part of last season at AAA, was added to the 40-man roster this offseason. The Giants just need to figure out a plan from a rotation standpoint. And fortunately for the Giants, there are a number of quality starting pitchers still on the market. I mean, this rotation will look a whole lot different. You end up signing Blake Snell, and you think about the second half of your season being Logan Webb, Blake Snell, and Robbie Ray at the front of your rotation, with Kyle Harrison really developing into a middle to front end of the rotation guy by that point in the year. But there's so many question marks and so much uncertainty for the Giants And just to, play this out to show you how the Giants have not built these guys up to take down 150 to 180 innings next year, let me read through these stats that I pulled up. Ross Stripling, who's currently the number two, has never thrown more than 135 innings in a major league season. Kyle Harrison, never more than 113 innings in a season at the minor league level. Keaton Winn threw 127 innings back in 2019, but he only threw 100 innings across two levels last year. Tristan Beck, 111 innings across two levels last year. Mason Black, 123 and two-thirds, so maybe you're projecting 140, 150 for him. But right now, the Giants seem like they're in position to rely on Kaiwei Tang, Sean Jelly, pitchers who just don't grade out as middle or even back end of the rotation guys. And we've seen what this Giants franchise looks like when it's relying on its bullpen too much. And right now, it feels like the Giants are once again poised to rely on their bullpen. And that, to me, is a recipe for disaster in 2024. You can mix and match, and the Giants have tried it. They tried it successfully in 2021. But again, you're just putting too much stress on too many guys at the back end of your bullpen. And we know that toward the second half of the season, guys will break down if you use them too much during the first half. So I think the number one priority for the next 5 weeks is to address the rotation and figure out how you're going to cover all of these innings right now. Because the Giants could say, hey, look, it's going to be Keaton Winn, Tristan Beck, Kyle Harrison in the rotation in April and May, but you're not going to have anyone left in August and September if you exhaust their innings early in the season. Let's say something happens for Alex Cobb or something happens for Robbie Ray and their recovery from major surgeries. All of a sudden, it's a Giants franchise that is really thin on starting rotation depth. So that, to me, priority number one for Farhan Zaidi. The second issue facing this Giants team right now, I don't know that the offense has actually gotten better this offseason. I mean, you look, Jung-Hoo Lee, I think, will be a great addition atop this lineup as a leadoff hitter. I've already said, I think there's a possibility that in his first year in the United States, Jung-Hoo Lee hits 300. I love the contact skills. The more I learn about the way that he played in Korea, the more excited I am about his addition to the San Francisco Giants lineup. And it's very clear that the organization made him a top priority alongside Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto at the outset of the offseason. Of course, they didn't land Ohtani. They didn't land Yamamoto. They both go to the Dodgers. That's miserable for the Giants. But they did get Jung-Hoo Lee, someone who will solidify center field and should bat leadoff on a daily basis. But Jung-Hoo Lee is not a power hitter. And this is a Giants team that really doesn't project to hit for a whole lot of power next year. You look around the diamond, and yes, there's some potential in Marco Luciano to hit for power at the major league level. But again, he's 22 years old and only has 39 major league at-bats under his belt. J.D. Davis, he could hit you 15, Mike Yastrzemski 20, but you're looking around and you're not seeing someone who's going to end the Giant streak of hitting 30, not having a 30 home run hitter. I don't know how they address this. Is Wilmer Flores their top right-handed power option? Is Michael Conforto, Lamont Wade Jr., are these their top left-handed power options? It just doesn't feel to me like a Giants lineup that is demonstrably better right now than it was when this offseason began. And if you watch the Giants at the end of the 2023 season, and if you were still watching, good on you, it was brutal. The offense was terrible to watch on a daily basis. Not nearly enough power, not nearly enough bat on ball skills, and way too many whiffs. The strikeouts were prolific. The, dreadful innings added up. And there were times where it just didn't feel like the Giants had a chance because their offense was relying on days where you needed Wilmer Flores to bat 4 or 5 times, and the lineup couldn't turn over quickly enough for him. That was the state of the Giants offense at the end of the 2023 season. And I look at the free agent market right now, and I don't know that this is something that the Giants will be able to address overnight or by spring training. Like, I think that they can find starting pitching. I still think that that's out there. They can cover the right amount of innings. But if you look at the free agents available right now, let's say Matt Chapman, who's been linked to the Giants, throughout the offseason, of course, has the ties to Bob Melvin, the new manager, Matt Williams, the new third base coach, Giants legend. Let's say that they sign Matt Chapman. He immediately becomes probably their number 3 or their number 4 hitter. How many other lineups in Major League Baseball is Matt Chapman slotting in as the number 3 or the number 4 hitter? Let's say, for whatever reason, the Giants go out and they get Rhys Hoskins, who's, of course, coming off the season when he really didn't play for the Philadelphia Phillies, missed an entire year due to injury. Hoskins, of course, has 30 home run power in that bat, has reached that threshold before, but if Rhys Hoskins signs with the Giants, he's probably hitting 3rd. He's probably hitting 4th. If he signs with any other team, where is he hitting? that is the state of the Giants lineup, you're looking at someone who might be a 5, 6, or 7 hitter elsewhere, hitting in a premium spot in the order for the San Francisco Giants. And I like their 1-2 combo atop the lineup of Jung-Hoo Lee and Tyro Estrada. And I do think that, they have pieces who can be productive. I think that the Giants have shown that in the past that, it's a lineup that uh, fans may not like the platoons. They may not like Austin Slater and Mike Yastrzemski playing on different days against different handed pitchers, but it has worked for the Giants at times. The issue was it didn't work during the second half of the season, and to not make significant changes and expect players to just perform all of a sudden at the beginning of the 2024 season, I think is setting up a recipe for disaster for the Giants. So there's a lot of work to do from a position player standpoint, from a lineup standpoint, to instill confidence in this fan base. And I don't know that they can do it all by the start of spring training. I don't know that they can do it all by opening day. But to me, there are major questions about this lineup and its viability in being a top half of the National League lineup. I think are out of the question right now. You need at least one, if not two more big pieces. And I just don't know that the Giants are willing to go out and get those pieces. So it could be a long year. It could be a year where you're watching a lot of young kids, prospects take at bats. I want to see Marco Luciano. I want to see Casey Schmidt. I want to see Luis Matos, Wade Meckler. But if all of those players are in the lineup during the second half of the season, I would venture to say that the Giants probably, aren't playing their kids because they're in a position where they all seize jobs. I think they're probably playing their kids because they have no other option at that point. So obviously, the rotation, a big question for the Giants right now. The lineup, a big question for the Giants right now. And that all adds up to problem number 3, which is, to me, there's no clear identity for the San Francisco Giants headed into 2024. And again, it's January 8th. They have 5 weeks until spring training, until pitchers and catchers report. There's plenty of time to potentially address this. But the Giants talked about wanting to get more athletic, wanting to have better pitching at the front end of their rotation this offseason, wanting to play better defense next year. And right now, can any of us look at this team and say, well, they're clearly one of the most athletic teams in the National League West. They clearly have one of the best lineups in the National League West. They clearly have one of the best rotations in the National League West. I don't think that any of us could provide any certainty, I should say, and say that and do it with a straight face. I think that is an issue facing the Giants right now. And so the Giants would probably challenge that assertion. I would bet that Farhan Zaidi and Bob Melvin would say, look, our identity is that we are creating opportunities for young kids to come in here and prove they're a part of the future core, take jobs in San Francisco and run with those jobs for the next 5 or 6 seasons. I think they look at Patrick Bailey. I think they look at Luis Matos and Marco Luciano and Casey Schmidt and Kyle Harrison and all of these young guys who come up through the farm system and made major league debuts last season as players who potentially could impact a much brighter future for the organization. But I don't know that that's enough to get by at the beginning of the season. And I think there's a much higher likelihood that, okay, let's say 81-81 is the baseline, 500 in a major league season. I think there's a much higher likelihood that the Giants go 72-90 as opposed to 90-72 right now, based on what they've done so far this offseason. And again, I'm the first one to admit it's January 8th. There's plenty that the Giants could do. There's plenty that they can still address. There are quality free agents still available. There are trades to be made. There are creative moves to be made. But right now, they brought in Jung-Hoo Lee, who clearly fills a need for the Giants. He's a leadoff hitter. He's a center fielder. We will see how he performs in year 1 in Major League Baseball. They've traded 2 pieces of what they probably consider dead weight, Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeSclafani coming off major injuries, for a pitcher who, represents an upgrade over DeSclafani when he's healthy in Robbie Ray. But when he's healthy, we won't know what that looks like until July. He's coming off of Tommy John surgery, and pitchers typically don't regain their full command and control for at least 1 year coming off Tommy John. So it's hard to project Robbie Ray as a true difference maker during the second half of the season for the San Francisco Giants. They've added Tom Murphy to, play behind Patrick Bailey at the catcher position, but there's still so much work left to be done. And Farhan Zaidi told Tim Kawakami on the Great TK show that, the Giants can do more this offseason. The market has been held up. It's been a little slower than anticipated, but there's 5 weeks left. We've sat through November, December, the beginning portion of January, and what the Giants have done so far is not enough to inspire confidence. They are not marketing a clear identity right now. They don't have a team that's easily, it's not easily pitched to a fan base, and you can say, okay, you can see the path here, fans. You could see the path to winning for this 2024 Giants team. I think it's much easier to see a path where they lose and lose dramatically than win and win dramatically. And I've been wrong before. I was wrong headed into 2021, and I was probably wrong headed into 2023. I thought that they'd be slightly better than they were, but I'm willing to be wrong again. Again, it's only January 8th. There's plenty of time left, but there are still big picture questions facing the organization, and I wonder what it will do to address those questions in the lead up to spring training and in the lead up to opening day. If you have suggestions for what the Giants should do, please drop those in the comments section. Maybe they will inspire a future video here on the Kerry Crowley Show. Thank you so much for watching. And if you think this Giants team has a clear identity, would love to read those comments in the comment section underneath this video. Again, thanks for watching the Kerry Crowley Show. Back with more later on this week.